Hello, everybody. Welcome to Watches with Dennis. And today I want to do sort of a fun video. I want to talk about 5 iconic watches that I love. So for those that are not familiar with what I usually talk about on the channel, a lot of the watches, or at least I think a lot of the watches that I go after are a little bit off the beaten path. You know, I enjoy trying to find hidden gems, watches that maybe aren't the ones that everyone says that they want in their collection, and, find the ones that identify and speak to me and that I want to end up owning. However, iconic watches are iconic for a reason, and I am not immune from liking particular iconic watches or loving particular iconic watches. And there are 5 that I wanted to go ahead and talk about in this video today. So the first one I think is probably the one best known in terms of what I don't own but have wanted for a really long time, and that is a Rolex Submariner. I almost feel bad liking the Rolex Submariner because it is one of the most prolific luxury watches out there. If you're able to secure one at retail, the price point, especially historically, was not all that difficult to obtain in terms of sort of that mid-tier luxury pricing. And while they do go for more currently on the gray market, it's not like a double or so. It's not like a Daytona. And historically, the Rolex Submariner was not hard to get, unlike the Daytona. And a lot of people own them. So I don't know if it's because Sean Connery wore it as James Bond and I just recognized that as a kid, or the countless homages and clones that I've seen over the years, but the look is clean and is something I've always really, really appreciated. And so it is a watch that has for a long time remained on my list. And while I do own, and continue to explore other dive watches, I continue to really want the Rolex Submariner. I think my only differentiating factor, which I think a lot of purists would appreciate anyway, is the date version is actually the more popular model from Rolex. They make more of those. However, I do prefer the clean, time-only look of the no-date Submariner. In terms of watch number 2 that is iconic and is one that I love, it's one that I own, and that is Jaeger-LeCoultre or JLC's Reverso. It almost doesn't matter which version of the Reverso. There are a few that I don't care for in terms of dial configuration or complications, but bottom line is duo face, single face, if it's going like a perpetual calendar, not so much into the chronograph versions personally, but a lot of the other complications I'm pretty amenable to. The bottom line is the Art Deco design, the just iconic rectangular shape has just really resonated with me. I did end up purchasing one. I still own it. In fact, when I was downsizing my dress watch collection because I had got a higher end piece or was in the process of getting a higher end piece, the Reverso was the one dress watch I did not let go of. And there's a reason for that. I really, really like the look of it. And so it continues to remain my favorite design in terms of rectangular watch. It, for me, easily displaced, especially as time has gone by, the Cartier tank. But speaking of Cartier, they are number 3 on the list. Some of these brands have more than one icon, so it becomes maybe a little easy or unfair, but it's just the way it is. So for example, with Rolex, I could have just as easily put the Daytona as an icon as I did the Submariner, and in fact, the GMT Master 2 is also an icon of Rolex. They have multiple. In the case of Cartier, there is another icon besides the tank, and that is the Santos. Now, I did actually own a Santos 100, but that's not the one I'm going to cite in this particular instance. I did let that watch go. What I would like is, I prefer the more dress style watch. And again, I'm trying to resist buying dress watches. So this is not one I'm trying to buy right now, but it continues to remain on the list because I just really, really like it. And that is the more Santos de Cartier version that is currently in production. I do like the sports models. I like the current lineup of the sports models. They're not quite as big as the Santos 100s. But again, a square-shaped case that's done very proportionally, very well. I've never clicked with, say, Tag Heuer's or Heuer before that's in Monaco, for example. But the Santos, very wearable watch. I've tried several on, and I like them. I basically like all of them, other than really we go, again, get a little too creative. Skeleton dials aren't something that resonates well with me, even though I do think Cartier does perhaps the best in the business skeleton dials as in terms of a mass-produced watch. But yes, the Santos continues to be one of those icons that I really love and appreciate, and I might end up getting another one in the collection someday if I end up breaking my rule about not having more than 2 dress watches. Moving to watch number 4, this is a watch that I do own, and that is Stova as the brand, and the Flieger. So there are a lot of Fliegers that have existed over time. there's plenty of videos out there if you want to explore the history of the Flieger and the 5 original manufacturers, Stova being one of those. In this day and age, there are 2 watch brands that the Flieger, I think, is their icon. You could argue IWC, but IWC arguably has more than one icon because the Portuguese are also very famous and popular with them. But Laco and Stova are, I think, only known for Fliegers. And that's, in a way, a little disappointing or unfortunate in the case of Stova. I know Laco has non-Fliegers as well, but, I mean, Stova has the Antilla. I think that's what it's called. It's sort of their Bauhaus watch. They also have a Marine watch, which, again, if you're kind of liking the vibe of the Breguet Marines and don't want to spend that much money, Stova comes in at a much lower price point. Most of Stova's watches are sort of in that entry-level price point range. Think $1,000 to $3,000. And their Fliegers are like that as well. Unlike Laco, though more recently I do need to note Laco has done this also, but historically speaking, Laco stayed with the very traditional case structure, where Stova had sort of modernized it, made it more wearable, and I did end up with a Type B style Flieger. I still own that watch. I know a lot of people find Fliegers relatively boring, but I've really, really liked the look of them for a long time, especially Type B dials, and so what ends up happening, I go with Stova's most famous icon of Flieger watch, and it's not been one that I've looked at selling because I appreciate it so much. And finally, the 5th watch I have as an icon that I love is Breitling's Navitimer. Now, on paper, the Navitimer should in no way be a watch that I like. It's way too busy. The whole slide roll feature alone is overly complicated. But you go ahead and you add on the chronograph functionality, which there are modern Navitimers that do not have the chronograph, and I like those as well. But it all just sort of works. However they put it together as a pilot watch, it's very unique. It's unlike any other pilot style watch that I know of, explicitly designed for pilots to be able to have functionality. All of those things on the dial are not just there for busy's sake. They are to serve a purpose. And it is, I think, Breitling's most famous icon watch, and is definitely the only model I've seriously considered getting from Breitling. I have never owned a Breitling in any form. I have looked repeatedly at picking up a Navitimer because, again, other than the Flieger I already mentioned, I don't really have a lot in the way of pilot's watches. I would have said it's my only pilot's watch is the Flieger. I guess technically what I'm currently wearing, which is the Oris Pro Pilot, is a pilot line, but it doesn't follow the normal rules that I consider for pilot watches in terms of legibility, at least not this particular model from Oris. So the Breitling Navitimer continues to remain as a possible on the list. I haven't seriously shopped them ever, but it always ends up on the short list when I'm looking at new sports watches. So anyway, those are 5 watch icons that I personally love. Please comment below regarding any watches that you like a whole lot, that you think are, yes, they're very, very popular, but there's a reason for it, and you embrace that as well. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. It does help the channel and the video out. If you want to be notified when I have new videos, go ahead and click subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel further, there is a link in the video description to my 99-cent a month club. And also, I do have a link, hopefully it's working, for you to be able to join the Discord. You don't have to be a club member to be in the Discord. The Discord is free, but it's just a place where more open watch discussions can sort of happen. So those are all my plugs. And other than that, I hope you all have a really good day. Take care.